here's Casey.
Thanks, Scott. So I want to begin today by directing your attention, and by attention I mean your internet browsers and Wi-Fi signals, at least a device, maybe not your main device, to that network. It's an offline network I've set up for the conference. It includes a private chat, discussion forum, file sharing, and image uploading. And it's going to be stored throughout the entire conference, and we'll be blasting it the entire time. It's offline, it's anonymous, so use it as you see fit. It'll take a second to load up once you get the signal working, but afterwards you should say something like that, and you can play with it a little bit while we're all talking. So to start today, I want to talk about recent debates about net neutrality and how they offer ready-made sites and responses for digital rhetorics. Information is political, information is about access, information ought to be fair, information wants to be free, information is a right. Indeed, we find a democratic pulse beating with each and every syllable of the net neutrality definition. What this means in the popular imagination is that net neutrality would prevent an internet service provider from charging me extra for watching one of Netflix's crappy movies than what I might be charged for accessing a text-based website. For me, what this debate shows is that even after 2 decades of internet use, we still have much to learn about information and networks. While the affordances of an information superhighway that treats all data equally is appealing, and such an arrangement actually erodes opportunities for novel network formation. That is, a non-neutral internet would offer occasion for us to better develop, better become aware, and better become attuned to how information emerges through various infrastructures and interfaces. But instead, we opt for net neutrality, whose rules elide medial differences. So today, what I'd like to do is consider how we might understand information somewhat differently. Since I promised today to offer some notes concerning the future of digital rhetoric, I'll appropriately begin those notes by starting in antiquity. So our event at least implicitly asked the 2.0 question of what the oldest question concerning rhetoric. What is digital rhetoric? With that question in mind, I turned to one of our earliest texts on the matter. In Plato's Gorgias, Socrates interrogates Gorgias about rhetoric's definition and rhetoric's lack of an object of study. In one of his many responses, Gorgias cites an instance of rhetoric where he helped facilitate an interaction between a doctor and a patient. Now, in the short passage, Gorgias argues that good doctoring is not a straight line from doctor to patient. The doctor, a knowledgeable practitioner, cannot alone remedy his suffering patient by communicating information directly. Instead, Gorgias amplifies the doctor and enacts a network of healthcare. We could view Gorgias here and rhetoric in general as functioning as an interface, as a mediator to facilitate communication, forming the edge between node A, doctor, and node B, patient. However, I propose that we consider what I'll call the Gorgias function, not to be understood as an interface between two known things, but instead as an infrastructure whose embeddedness in the wider milieu make it difficult to make distinctions on which an internet or interface would rely. Now, Plato's dialogue is often read as rhetoric's fundamental failure to define itself. I see instead the Gorgias function operating prior to subject-object or form-content distinctions, and therefore non-responsive to the question of what is rhetoric. I suggest that digital rhetoric also occupies this position. Asking what rhetoric is, asking what digital rhetoric is perhaps beside the point. Asking instead, the common response there, I guess now, is asking what it can do can be far more productive as it begins thought about what it is with an ontological humility, perhaps even an ontological stupidity. So I propose that we respond to the implicit question of what is digital rhetoric with not knowing. Becoming informed means you don't know thyself, your field, your discipline. Embrace ontological stupidity. All right, note 2. One problem for using the interface as a metaphor for much digital rhetoric means we ally processes that are not easily definable as separate things an interface would mediate. Sometimes human or non-human actors contribute rhetorical effects through quasi-relationships that might be confused at best. For example, in 2014, FireChat app was released on iTunes as a solution for when concert goers or convention goers find themselves in areas of limited cell or Wi-Fi connection. The app is simple. Using the cell phone's Bluetooth and Wi-Fi capabilities, FireChat allows for a way for people in close proximity to form a network. Instead of relying on a global infrastructure that we might find in a Wi-Fi or cell phone networks, FireChat provides its participants a way to communicate and be communicated as the network itself. This is to say that the app is not simply an interface between two separate nodes, but is self-imbricated in the network. Often referred to as a mesh network, FireChat and other peer-to-peer messaging apps provide another way for us to conceive of information networks alongside the internet. Now, while FireChat app was designed for concert goers or people at conventions such as tech-heavy events such as South by Southwest, its capabilities far outstretched its design purpose, and it became something else. For instance, in the massive protests that spread across Hong Kong last year, FireChat proved to be an invaluable tool for circumventing the government's explicit control of the internet and cellular networks. Using the app, protesters were able to coordinate and form collectives, even as the government shut down cell towers' internet capabilities. Unlike a Wi-Fi or cell tower whose surface suffers by adding more connections, mesh networks like FireChat get stronger as more people join on. All right, note 3, I should say. Now, both of my initial examples implicitly argue that information is not content forced through a medium. Like that scene in Plato, information was not a communication between a doctor and a patient, nor was information something that a dictatorship could necessarily suppress in a FireChat example. Infrastructure becomes information and communicates. This is what I call the Gorgias function. In this sense, information is not a separate thing from a wider infrastructure. It is the result of an infrastructure becoming informed. Now, technology theorist Gilbert Simondon offers an understanding of information that might best explain these informational dynamics, especially as they might apply to digital rhetoric. Overriding Simondon's project is the proposal that any individual, be it a biological or non-biological individual, is never given in advance. It must come into being through a course of an ongoing process of individuation. Unlike an Aristotelian hylomorphic understanding of information, that is an understanding of substance that is formed or transmitted by a medium of transmission, Simondon understands information almost as a verb, as always an informing from a wider milieu of pre-individual relationships. This informing of information, Simondon argues, follows a transductive logic. Now, borrowing the term from biology and engineering, where transduction is the process in which energy is transformed from one kind of signal to another, Simondon states that by transduction, we mean a physical, biological, mental, or social operation through which an activity propagates from point to point within a domain, while grounding this propagation in the structuration of that domain. Now, Kitchen and Dodge can helpfully hone this definition further in code space by simply saying transduction is the making anew of a domain in a reiterative and transformative individuations. It is the process by which things transfer from one state to another. Now, again, Simondon here is arguing against a hylomorphic understanding of information where content and form are separate considerations. To explain a non-hylomorphic mode of information, Simondon turns to the example of making bricks, an example that is actually often used to argue form-content distinctions. So forgive the long quote here, but you told me no sound. What happened? Where do I turn this down? Okay. That was loud. Thank you. So I'll go ahead and read the quote as we're. To make a brick, the brick maker fills a wooden mold with clay. Simondon argues that the clay is not indeterminate matter, extracted from marshy soil, is dried out, ground into powder, immersed in water, kneaded for a long time, it has already been formed. Its molecular properties determine its quality, porosity, and density. As for the mold, it is by no means pure form. Excellent, thank you. It is made from a wood that is relatively robust, but still malleable. The artisan adds a powdered coating to the inner walls of the mold to ensure that the finished brick will slide out easily. The form is itself matter that has been treated. So here we might understand the signal of a communication is an effect, not prior to the communication itself. All right, note 4. All right, we get it. Information is a verb. So how do Plato and bricks lead us to digital rhetoric? And where does transduction fit in again? I'd like to provide another example for information as a transductive process by looking at memes. Memes and viral content are perhaps the best sites for exploring digital rhetoric today. Memes usually involve issues of visuality, circulation, information, communication, politics, networks, and any number of other areas of interest for traditional and digital rhetoric. So for instance, much scholarship has been done on the meme of the pepper spray cop and its later proliferations. What I'm especially interested in with memes is how the meme does something more than traditional text. So Jeff Rice talks about this as the technical image, drawing from media theorist Willem Flusser as the way a suggestive image proliferates as more than interpretation of its meaning. It incorporates its audience. In the book Speculate This, the pepper spray cop is offered as one example of an affirmative practice that helps speculate possibilities for political futures. Speaking about a different meme, that's my favorite one, by the way. Poor Mr. Rogers. Speaking about a different meme, Lori Greaves also refers to the proliferation and versioning of a viral image as a prime example for how a material rhetoric unfolds. A meme is not a signal that is communicated, but is a transductive circulation of ecology. Now, what we see in this iterating display is a meme's capacity to spread is relative to its capacity for change. That is, the viral nature of a meme depends on its ability to change, to differ, to incorporate. Rice, Speculate This, and Greaves understand that a meme is more than what it might mean. It has the ability to become something else. Now, one way to elaborate on the function of a meme is to think about that content as a durable sort of unit running through a gauntlet, and what comes out, right? Or as Kelly Clarkson might say, what does not kill you will make you stronger. Such a way of looking would be to ignore the background or the informative capabilities of the surrounding milieu. I'd like to propose a slightly different way of looking at memes in general, but information specifically. Another way we might consider a meme's memeing is to see how that a single image proliferates as a meme. So with this image right here, Mark Samsonovich provides an interesting case when a photo of his artwork, Water the Flowers, begins circulating on the web. He posted the picture on his website and Instagram, and the image went viral with 7,000 shares over the course of a short time. What this particular instance of this meme shows is not the typical alterations and change we see in memes. However, it's a capacity for change even in a single image shows that instead of a content being forced through a conduit, that the content is the result of a transductive process being resolved through various infrastructures. So as the image circulated, we see the results of different cell phones, network speed rates, resizing, filters, and any number of other alterations that are either intentionally or unintentionally made as the image proliferates through a network. The process of this particular change, often called compression artifacting, would understand the differences of the images as degraded. But I want to suggest that a transductive approach would see here how information is produced by the relationships between and amongst a host of outside relations. The resulting meme image is not, is it still going? Okay. The resulting meme image is not the result of a velocity of any one content to push through and make itself known wholly, but is the resolution of a system, a process of transduction not unlike the process of making bricks. All right, final note. maybe a good note, I'm not sure. Now I'd like to end on a note today that brings this all back to digital rhetoric. Moving towards a transductive logic for digital rhetoric means that we unmoor ourselves from a politics of the interface that seeks definition by presuming two or more separate bodies mediated by some sort of technological screen. Despite me using the term for my talk today, even infrastructure might be unsuitable for the task at hand. Instead, I wonder if digital rhetoric might benefit by focusing on a politics of the intraface, a structure that resolves from things already connected, temporarily, contingently. Now, to make transduction more concrete, I want to conclude that I find a strong affinity between Simondon's understanding for how information becomes informed, also the rhetorical function of infrastructures, and the techne of rhetorical training. The rhetorical tradition, too, offers strategies similar to transductive inquiry in its emphasis on practice and bodily exercise that leverage structures of determination as enabling constraints. Several accounts of the history of rhetorical training in antiquity propose a consistency between training the athletic body and the orator's education. And such work includes Maru, Cribore, and of course, Haughey. This scholarship argues that one increases one's rhetorical capacities through repeated encounters with agonistic or determinative structures that are not unlike a transductive process of reiterations and change that take place in wider milieus. While these scholars have provided productive accounts of the ways that training the athletic body is consistent with rhetorical education, the future of digital rhetoric might refigure rhetorical training as an ongoing transductive exercise of an always undefined but always resolving post-human body. That's it. Thanks.